Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast. Today is Friday, August the 23rd. Zach Ewing with Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, our Saints beat crew and columnist. We're 2 days away from the final preseason game, so we're going to talk about that today. Also talk about the kicker battle, which is about the most exciting thing left on the docket of the preseason, and some final battles for the final spots on the 53-man roster. That's today's show. We do want to let you know that Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net. Guys, last preseason game, it's always the most fun game of the year.
I sense the sarcasm in your voice, man, but like, look, let's just take a step back and realize that we're all grateful to be covering the NFL, even if it's a meaningless third preseason game where a lot of these guys are not going to be on the team.
And we say it's meaningless, but I was kind of looking at some Titan stuff, and they're actually playing their starters like Will Levis is supposed to start because their starters didn't play last week. Yeah. So they're and the plans for them to play like 3 series. At least the offensive starters. I don't think Jeffrey Simmons is playing. LeJarrette Sneed's not playing, but they're coming here trying to get their offense.
Avenge week 1 last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Preseason win counts just as much.
Tajay Spears' revenge game.
Yeah.
The point spread in the game is Titans by like 3.5, 4, and you usually don't get a spread that big in the preseason unless one team's playing its starters and the other team isn't, which is what we have here. So,
well, what we're expecting anyways. The Saints haven't said anything.
And that can backfire. I mean, I think the Chiefs were like a 9-point favorite on the Lions a couple weeks ago, and they only built a 4-point lead with their starters in the game, took them out, and then all of a sudden the Lions won the game.
I can't believe how fast we got off the rails with you talking about betting lines on preseason games.
Yeah, why do you know that? Yeah.
Actually, let's not answer it. Why knows that.
Let's take a commercial. This commercial is very fitting for this for this topic, and we'll be right back. We'll reset after this.
Football fans, with the Caesars Sportsbook app, you can be in the game all the time. Seeking instant action? Quick Picks offers you the most popular games and markets already built for you and ready to bet. Experience the thrill when you stack your bets to create a super parlay. Build bets for your favorite teams and players across multiple games. This season, don't just watch the game. Download Caesars Sportsbook and experience the game like never before.
All right, so Saints Insider for Friday, August the 23rd. Saints are back in the Dome actually for a practice today, and then everybody can be back in the Dome for Sunday. Probably not everybody, considering you can get tickets for $2 on the secondary market. Not a lot of excitement for this game, but as you mentioned, Rod, it is a big deal for some of the players. I mean, the Titans are playing a lot of their guys, and then there's about 10 guys on the Saints this is going to be a really big game for.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys who could earn a starting spot. I mean, you look at, we've talked about right tackle all season. I mean, so there's some spots up for grab. We're going to talk about some of the other ones later, but this is that preseason game for some people. It's it's a make or break game for them.
Yeah, Matt, you wrote a story that just published this morning on NOLA.com about just that, about the 10 guys who this is the most important game for. And I think at one spot, we'll talk about the specialists. You kind of cheated and put 4 guys in one spot.
That was Luke's idea that I stole.
Yeah. But teamwork. Yeah, we're not math majors here.
10-ish.
We fudged the math. But yeah, those last spots, in some cases it's a battle to start. In some cases it's a battle just to make the roster. But this is sort of that final evaluation, the final exam for some of those guys.
Yeah, I didn't even focus on the guys who are still up for starting spots just because I did that last week and wanted to kind of vary things up. But, I mean, there are just a lot of bubble spot guys on the bubble right now. I mean, you look at wide receiver, watching them in practice yesterday, they're rotating constantly with the ones. And, the Saints always kind of do that. Like, that's normal among NFL teams. But it really feels like lately it's, all right, Equanimeous St. Brown, Cedric Wilson, Bub Means, you're the first group. Next play, A.T. Perry, Kevin Austin. Like, they just keep shuffling these guys in and out. And I think that's reflective of how deep that position is right now for them. And I think you could kind of go across the board and find other spots like that.
Deep is relative in this in this sense.
Deep is there's a lot of bodies, but they're not
two
deep,
guys who are clearly head and shoulders above the rest. I think we've all agreed that Cedric Wilson is number 3 in that group in the pecking order, and then they've got like 5 guys who all have similar cases, but I think all of them you wouldn't feel great about if they were stepping in the lineup for Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave. So I do agree with that, in that it's going to be a really tough decision for them, and I think a lot of it might come down to their traits and how they fit within, how they could replace one of the starting guys if need be, and frankly, some of it might come down to special teams. I mean, I think that's going to be something we have to watch very closely this week, because there's always these guys in the roster who surprise you every year that they make it, because we're all out there watching them play offense or defense, and you're like, there's no way that guy can make it. And then you're like, oh, but he's a core special teamer. Like, what was the guy, former like top 10 draft pick, played a couple, Kevin White, remember him, the receiver? Yeah. He was clearly not one of their best receivers, but he was on their roster basically the whole season because he was like a special teams gunner. So there's going to be guys who are earning a spot onto the team this week who could really struggle on offense and defense. I'm thinking Stanley Morgan in particular. He's a guy who's, I think, clearly a step behind all these receivers that we just mentioned, but he's got a long history of being a very good special teams player in the NFL. Maybe that gets him on the 53.
Yeah, we'll talk at the end about who we think will make it going into this last game and who gets cut. But, the other thing, Rod, the backup quarterback, like Derek Carr, we do not think will play this week. So it's going to be Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. If they keep it in rotation, Haener will start, Rattler will get the second half. How far ahead is Jake Haener in this race in your mind? Can Spencer Rattler still win the number 2 job?
I don't know if he can win. I think I give Haener a little bit above slight edge now, but I thought going into last week he had a slight edge, but I thought he kind of separated himself a little bit, and he has obviously a year of experience, even though not in this offense. And I think I've said this, I think if Derek Carr went down today, I think Haener's the starter, and I don't know if he's the answer, but he's the starter for what this team has right now on this roster.
Yeah, it's 2 different discussions because, like Rod said, if Carr is hurt and he's out for 2 games and you're trying to keep the season afloat, I think Haener's the guy. If things go south and Carr gets hurt and he's out for the season and the playoffs are no longer a consideration, then maybe you want to go see what Spencer Rattler can do. We're speculating, but at this point, I think Haener's ahead.
I think so, and I think for the reasons Rod brought up, I think when you're looking at these 2 competing, there's one who's clearly oozing talent, right? He does some things you're just like, wow, unbelievable throw. And then there's one who is steady and capable of doing some really, really nice things. But like his ability to process, his ability to put the ball on the money, his ability to just kind of understand the timing of everything with the way receivers are breaking and when to get the ball out. I think all that is ahead of Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler can throw some amazing passes, but I think as a processor, as somebody who's working within the structure and the framework of the offense, I think he's a step behind Jake Haener. So yeah, if it's like a situation where you need somebody to step in for a game or 2 or a quarter or whatever the case is, I would feel much more comfortable with Jake Haener at this point. But I think all of us are probably in agreement where we're saying they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. And this, in my opinion, is probably just going to be a redshirt year for Spencer Rattler and let him learn and develop because the talent's there. I think he's got starting NFL quarterback talent. He's got to have the rest of it catch up.
Jake Haener did have a really bad throw yesterday, though.
Oh, yeah. I think I might have saved Mike Triplett's life, actually. I might have been the only one paying attention when Jake Haener just completely uncorked.
You got to tell us about this. Did you actually physically intervene, or was it just a heads up?
No, it was a heads up. But they were throwing on the sideline, toward the sideline where we were all standing, and Haener threw on, let's call it off target. We don't know how intentional this was. Maybe he had an axe to grind with Mike Triplett or somebody else in the media corps. I might have been the only one.
I was talking to Jeff.
The only one paying attention.
I was looking at my phone. I just stepped to the side and saw it bounce.
I mean, they were doing individual drills, so everybody's just writing down in their notebook, looking at their phone, whatever. Yeah, I saw that ball steaming right toward us. He put some mustard on that thing. Anybody who wants to say Jake Haener doesn't have NFL arm strength, I challenge them to go stand in front of one of his fastballs and take it and say that afterwards.
I mean, if it had hit someone, it would have taken them out.
It seems to me that an NFL quarterback.
I said heads up. So
in an individual drill for an NFL quarterback to miss that badly, there has to be some level of intentionality. Can we question Jake Haener about this?
That's a good question, and I think maybe we ought to put him under the microscope, under the grill a little bit.
But just in case he's listening, I think Jake Haener should win the backup job.
Yeah, just wait till Spencer Rattler takes it.
Yeah.
Well, we continue the discussion of the Saints have the ball, and if you guys want to talk running back, is Kendra Miller alive? Is he going to play?
I saw him yesterday. He is alive.
Okay, that's good to know.
I saw him yesterday in shorts and a t-shirt. So
probably not playing Sunday though.
Definitely not. Let's go ahead and rule that out.
Next segment.
That is one of the most interesting things coming into. Roster cuts are Tuesday next week. They're in a couple days. He's practiced for 5 minutes this training camp. So, it is a fascinating concept. You just go off of what Dennis Allen has said about him consistently since the day he got hurt. It's just is he going to make the team? Are they going to put him on IR, or are they going to just straight up cut him? Which we're talking about the number 71 pick. We're talking about a guy we talked about all summer as somebody we were all excited about.
A guy that they picked ahead of Tajay Spears.
Just twist the knife, man. Just twist the knife. So that's one discussion. We'll see what they do. At running back, offensive line's the other one. We kind of seen out of the blue, all of a sudden guys rotating reps at right tackle and at left guard, Matt.
Yeah, Oli Udoh has gotten some reps at right tackle. I thought it was curious timing that, Trevor Penning, his second preseason game seemed like it was a lot better than the first one, and then this is when they decide to do it. I think it's just more getting an insurance look at Udoh to see what he can do. They were splitting reps pretty evenly the first 2 days that they did it, but then yesterday's practice, it was more, I think it was their 14 periods that we saw. 3 were Penning, 1 was Udoh. It wasn't that 50-50 split like it had been. And even Dennis Allen has said that Trevor Penning has the advantage at right tackle. So I would still expect Trevor Penning to be the starter at right tackle.
I would too.
I think it's safe to say some of these guys are going to play on Sunday, though.
I would expect all of, maybe with the exception of McCoy and Ruiz, I would expect everybody else to play. That includes Tali Fuanga. Obviously this is just me speculating here, but he's a guy who they have said in the past needs the reps. He got the extended reps in the first preseason game. I think he played, 22 snaps in that game? Mm-hmm. And then he didn't play last week. If he would have played against the 49ers, I think maybe we would have saw a scenario where they're sitting him out because he is really important to what they do this year. But I would, now that he's back on the field practicing, I would expect him to play on Sunday against Tennessee, especially if they're playing their starting caliber players. And I would also feel the same way about Trevor Penning. They need to do a more complete evaluation of him. And whoever's starting at left guard, I would expect all those guys to get a longer look.
Flipping the discussion to when the Titans have the ball, Rod, you mentioned that Tennessee probably going to play quite a few starters. Will Levis will play. Tajay Spears will play. Might even see Tony Pollard play, some of their linemen, all that sort of thing. What are you looking for from the Saints defense? We know we saw Brian Brzee kind of move ahead of Colin Saunders at D-tackle, but those guys all rotate anyway, and they're probably not playing Sunday. So is the second safety battle the only thing that's outstanding besides the last few roster spots?
Yeah, for me, I would say it is. I mean, you want to see those cornerbacks. You want to see those guys continue to play well. I mean, obviously, you think about a guy like Rico Payton, who we don't know if he'll play because he's been injured this week. But
I think he'll go.
You think he will be?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
if you're Rico Payton, you want to.
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah, I mean, for him, I know he's probably itching to get out there, and you kind of want to see some more of that linebacker depth. DeMarco Jackson got injured in practice on Thursday, so I don't think he'll play. And so you want to see the guys like Anthony Orji. You want to see if he can continue to have the strong camp that he's been having.
I think they have a lot of difficult decisions on. I think their defense is actually legitimately deep.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about 4 of their edge rushers, even if Peyton Turner's injured again. Who knows how long that'll last. I feel pretty good about 4 of their defensive tackles, which I wasn't expecting to say at this stage of the season. I feel really good about their linebacker room. And then beyond their top 4 corners, we've seen some really good stuff out of Rico Payton and Rajon Wright. So, like, I think they're going to have some legitimately tough decisions to make defensively on those last roster spots, especially at linebacker and corner.
Yeah, this could be a situation where it's going to be difficult to stash some of those guys on the practice squad. They could get signed up.
It could be. It could be. But I also think that they are, especially at corner, they are so good at identifying a type and a type that fits well within their scheme. I don't necessarily know if those guys if other teams are seeing them and thinking they will fit in their scheme, because they definitely fit what the Saints want to do. I mean, they're trying to find this year's version of Ike Yadam, and they might have it in one of those 2 guys that I mentioned, Rico Payton and Rajon Wright.
And Shamar Jean Charles.
Shamar Jean Charles has been pretty good too.
He has. The safety spot, is Will Harris the guy there? Are we still going to see some rotation?
I'm looking at you to answer this one.
I think once the regular season starts, we'll see all 3 of those guys, depending on the formation, the game, the down. Like, yeah.
And you're talking about Will Harris, Jonathan Abram, and Jordan Howden.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a winner, quote unquote, even after training camp ends. If I had to guess, I think Jonathan Abram is going to get first crack at it. Will Harris, I think, has done well, but it just seems like they rotate him so constantly. You can't say one is necessarily in the lead, but if I had to guess, I think Abram has gotten the most total reps there this summer. But yeah, I don't think they trust Jordan Howden. I don't think he did any favors for himself missing that tackle when San Francisco scored their touchdown in Sunday's game. And Will Harris is rangy and he's a veteran, but he also wasn't. Like, Detroit kind of phased him out as his career went along, so he's just kind of a career backup type at this point, and so we'll see. But that's a spot that, I mean, that's why they pursued Justin Simmons, and that didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I think if you could combine all 3 players into one, you'd have a pretty good safety. But I think all of them have their flaws, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Saints use that. Because if you think about it, there's 10 positions on the field where guys typically play 100% of the snaps. The quarterback, the 5 offensive linemen, the 2 safeties, and 2 outside corners are on the field for every snap, pretty much, with some exceptions. Corners come off the field every now and then. I think we could see their starting safety play like 70% of the snaps, maybe,
right.
And they might play some matchup stuff there. So. Yeah, again, could be wrong. It could just be Will Harris, and he's the guy throughout the season. So they don't want to mess with continuity or whatever. But it is like a really interesting setup right now, because I think that's, if you're looking at the way this defense has performed in preseason and training camp, I think that's like really their lone kind of weak link on that defense. And you can hide that a little bit, but I think teams will try to exploit that spot.
And because of that, it's probably the place to keep the closest eye on Sunday, because that competition will. This is again the last chance to let it play out. All 3 of those guys are going to make the roster, but
we assume.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's true. Maybe if one of them is way behind.
I mean, like, you gotta. They have a really interesting defensive back room when you're looking at numbers, right? They'll definitely keep 4 corners. They'll definitely keep at least a couple safeties, but I don't think JT Gray is going anywhere. I feel like 99% certain he's going to make the team. Do you keep Ugo Amadi because he's a guy that gives you flex between safety and nickel? Like, if you do that, and you're talking about 4 safeties with 2 starters and those 2 backups, like, do you keep 5, 6 safties?
Seems
I was going to mention Rod Tamer's name just because he seemed to be getting a little bit more reps yesterday. I don't know if he can squeeze on, but he's a guy that's played special teams before, in his previous stops with the Chargers and Raiders. So, I mean, he could steal a spot. He's one of those guys, and we'll get to it at the end, but I think he's one of those guys that, he could maybe do enough Sunday to earn a spot.
Yeah. Well, we will get to those 53-man discussions. First, speaking of interesting things, this kicker competition is a lot more interesting than I thought it would be. And Jeff Duncan wrote a column about Charlie Smyth, or as they call him, Charlie Boy, the Irish kicker with the iron leg, who's just like routinely kicking 65-yarders. Now, the knock on him has always been consistency. And as Dennis Allen mentioned the other day, like you're not going to kick a lot of 65-yard field goals. It's just not a risk that you're going to take in a regular season game most of the time. So we need a guy who can make the 40 and 45 and 50-yard field goals. The other side of that coin is that Blake Grupe's not all that consistent either. So I don't know, are you losing that much consistency with Charlie Smyth?
Yeah, we've been charting all of their field goals throughout training camp, and both Grupe and Smith, I think probably more regularly Smith, but both of them have had misses from inside 40 yards. And Smith's missed a couple extra points. Yeah, I think he's gotten better as camp has progressed. So, like, really, the question you're asking here, if you're the Saints, is, and they showed they were willing to do this last year. Are you willing to bank on the more unproven option there, because it's the only kicker you have on your roster, just knowing that he's very talented and will probably get better? Because, I mean, they can use an extra practice squad spot on Charlie Smyth if they want. They could have a 17-man practice squad and keep him. But then, you've got a guy who's gotten some pub in the preseason. You've got a guy who's shown that he can hit from 65 yards. Like, do you want to risk exposing him if you think he's ultimately going to be the better kicker for your team? Maybe he's not right now, but maybe he will be. He's super talented. I don't know. It's like a really difficult proposition there. I think if it were me, I would probably lean toward Charlie Smyth. Like, if I were making the roster, just because the potential is really good. But you'd have to really be okay with, maybe you're in a tight game and he misses an extra point. You'd have to be willing to live with that uncertainty there.
Yeah. The more I've thought about this, the more I think they should just go ahead and go with Charlie Smyth. Blake Grupe, all last year, they were like, we don't want to cut him too soon because there's been a ton of instances where you cut a kicker, they improve at the next spot, it comes back to bite you. And I think that is sound logic, but I just think the upside with Smith is so much better than what Grupe can provide. And I just, Dennis Allen talks about inside the 50, kickers have got to make inside the 50. Well, Blake Grupe went 30 of 37 from field goal range last year. Only 3 of those misses were from 50 plus, and the other 4, were inside that, and 2 of them were inside the 30. So it's like,
so are you in? Yeah, like I said,
I don't think he's like a beacon of consistency either.
I think they rolled the dice more last year than they would be rolling it this year. I mean, when they got rid of Will Lutz last year, I was like, oh, that's risky. But I think this one, I don't think the risk is quite as big if they decide to go with Charlie boy.
Charlie lad.
The third possibility.
Charlie boy.
the Gaelic football player. The third option would be wait and see who gets cut from other rosters. Do you bring? I mean, are both of these guys too inconsistent for you?
mean, they could. It wouldn't be a total surprise to me if they cut both of them on cutdown day and use that spot to keep somebody else until they get through the waiver wire. I mean,
I don't know. They aren't that bad.
No. I mean, I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying if they
do that with punter, I would.
If they choose to do that, it wouldn't be a complete surprise to me. Yeah, they could go a no specialist initial 53. Obviously, they're going to have one, but like, there's going to be good, functional NFL kickers and punters on the waiver wire. They could absolutely go that route.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention.
I wouldn't do it. Like, I would keep Charlie Smyth. I think the upside is too tantalizing. You have to live with some of the ups and downs.
And one thing about Smith that you mentioned, Luke, is like he's gotten demonstrably better just over a month. So if he continues, I mean, obviously your first month at an NFL camp is going to be the highest rate of improvement. But if he keeps showing that aptitude to get a little better and a little more consistent.
That guy kicked a football for the first time in his entire life last year. like there is gonna be some like growing pains here, but like the growth is gonna happen. Yeah, he is clearly talented.
Just watching the crowd at Tulane the other night, and y'all may have talked about this the other day, but when they were watching him kick, I mean, the crowd was just.
Yeah, he was the star of the show.
Yeah, he was like the star of the show kicker, and I don't know if that's ever happened, and he was just. People want to see him.
Well,
let's
probably not saying that's not a good sign. Probably. I'm sorry to cut you off. If everybody's there to see Charlie
Smith. Did some fan refer to Derek Carr as a used car salesman sarcastically in the crowd after he overthrew Chris Olave? Maybe.
Week 17, week 18, Charlie Smyth comes out for the kick to make the playoffs, and the Irish jig music starts over the Superdome loudspeakers.
They're playing
you
U2
know that's
after
gonna
the
Can we
game
s-
winner the other day.
I want to put this out there for anybody who's listening and who's excited about Charlie Smyth. Just know there's going to be a time when you're frustrated with him if he makes a team, really frustrated, and it might come back and cost his team a win or two if he's not consistent from the stuff you expect NFL kickers to make 99% of the time. So just know that going in. He's very exciting. He could do some absolutely crazy things kicking a football, but like if he makes a team and you're excited about him, just know that like you're gonna have to allow him some space to breathe and learn.
That's the thing that makes me hesitate. And Jeff mentions this in his column. You should all read it, NOLA.com/Saints. But like, man, week 6 and he misses a big kick against the Bucks or something from 34 yards, and everybody like you're just gonna be pulling your hair out. Like
think
we
about
did with Groupie last year.
Just think about
Yeah.
how many close games this team is probably going to play in. Right, they're a defensive-minded football team who wants to run the football. Like they're not going to be playing like games where they're winning and losing by 15 to 20 points. Like they're going to be in close games. Every single one of these points are going to matter. If you're losing a game by 2 points and you miss an extra point in that game, or you miss a field goal that you should make, it's going to be frustrating. And I'm not trying to be down on Charlie Smyth. I really, really like him as a player. I think he has potential to be really, really good. But like, there's also potential if you're just like gambling on the talent that like it could be really, really frustrating for this team and cost them games.
His worst day of camp was easily the day that they practiced kickoffs, and he had like maybe 3 out of bounds. Like,
And that's
That's the other factor here, right?
And Darren Rizzi's talked about it. Like they are placing a premium on location for the kickoffs because that rule is going to be a factor in the NFL. We've seen it in these preseason games. I mean, there's no touchbacks anymore, and if you're not putting it where exactly where you told your coverage team it's going to be, that could open the door for some disaster there too.
I will say, I mean, there is a touchback. It's just to the 30, right?
yes,
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is like, we've seen in these Saints games, I think 2 touchbacks in 2 preseason games.
yeah, something like that.
You're talking about an 85, 90% return rate.
League wide, it was 77% was this past weekend. I read somewhere.
I was close.
I just wonder
bit.
if there'll
You
be an
overshot a little bit,
adjustment strategy-wise of, hey, if we're giving up big returns, maybe the 30's not so bad. Just boot it out the back of the end zone again. And then next year you may see it become the 35 or something.
It could be, yeah.
We'll see.
If I were an NFL coach, I'd be like, just boot it out.
Yeah, don't risk the return.
I don't
just
care,
give it to him
I
on
don't
the
care
30.
about 5 yards
Yeah.
at all. And I guess the counter to that is you have the opportunity if you kick it right to get them down at like the 15 or something
Sure.
like that. But I think I would just take the safe call.
Conservative. It's Dennis
Me
Allen.
and Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
Like this.
All right, we're going to wrap things up with a discussion of the 53-man roster, the last couple of battles for that, maybe a surprise cut, we think, a surprise guy who makes it. This is going to be our Transactions Wire. That's brought to you by Associated Grocers. Join our team and help support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. So 53-man roster, I don't know, what battle are you guys looking at for one of those final roster spots? We mentioned some of the receivers, safeties, special teams guys, and then maybe a surprise cut.
Oh, do you want to do it for surprise cut, or do you want me to do it? I think we're probably both thinking about the same guy.
No, well, you go first with your surprise cut because
So I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm dying to know the name here.
But like, if they cut A.T. Perry,
Okay, yeah, that would be mine.
if they cut A.T. Perry, I would not be surprised. And which is it's odd because we've talked about like what happens if one or both of Olave and Shaheed goes out, and like A.T. Perry feels like a logical. He had a lot of success when he's given a little limited run last year. He's a big pass catcher. He's a talented pass catcher. Why wouldn't they keep that guy? But like it's just every single time we ask somebody about it, they're just like hammering on all the stuff he needs to do better. So I don't know. There's just like a weird vibe around A.T. Perry. It wouldn't be a surprise to me to see them cut loose.
Rod, which receivers are you keeping?
The obvious two, Cedric Wilson. I'm keeping A.T. Perry.
I mean, for the
I would
record,
keep him
I
too,
would
yeah.
keep him
Okay,
too.
okay.
It's just weird vibes. It wouldn't surprise me.
And what's that for?
That's 4. Yeah, probably need one more.
Man, I guess I'll go. I wish my guy from Yale didn't get hurt. That would make this a little easier for me. I don't know. I go St. Brown, I guess.
And I mean, we haven't mentioned Mason Tipton. He is probably going to play Sunday. He's back at practice. So
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he was on track to make, I think, this team. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he
could have been like the third receiver, but
this is one of those situations where if you're Mason Tipton, where ordinarily you might say, I need to be 100% back from, it's a hamstring, right? Hamstring strain. If you're 90%, you gotta go
But
try.
is the team going to put him out there if he hasn't done any team drills yet? I mean, he hasn't. So
I mean, that's the big thing of today's practice.
I think I agree with your
First
top
four.
4, and then I would probably keep Bub Means.
Yeah.
I think he's come on strong lately. They gave him the opportunity, putting him out with the first team offense last week, and he showed up, made a big catch on 4th down. So if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said no chance.
Right.
But he's come on really strong.
I actually think Bub Means is now the 4th receiver if I had to like actually assign a pecking order. Like, I think if Cedric Wilson gets hurt, I think it'll be Bub Means that goes in the game and not A.T. Perry.
And I still consider Stanley just because of his special teams.
Yeah,
like Luke mentioned
I
earlier.
think if they
but-
keep 6 receivers, think I would go Stanley Morgan of the bunch just because of special teams, but just don't think they're going to keep 6.
Yeah, I don't think
I will say, though, that I don't think Mason Tipton makes a 53, but I definitely think that he would make it to their practice squad. And I think that he would be kind of the next one of those guys who makes a jump from practice squad to the active roster midseason and makes an impact, much like Rashid Shaheed did a couple years ago.
The next discussion, maybe for a full discussion of this, read Matt's story. He's got the 10 bubble guys, NOLA.com/Saints. Check it out. Just some quick yes or no's. Anthony Orgy, does he make this roster?
Yes.
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 Kendry Miller, probably IR.
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 No chance of him being cut.
Oh, there's a chance.
That's
Yeah. I plead the 5th.
Okay. How about Ugo Amadi?
I'm gonna say yes. I don't feel great about it.
I left him off the other day, so I'll say no.
I'm probably going to go no on that one. And again, I might get Rod Teamer that spot.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm like a 52% yes on Ugo.
Yeah, Rod Teamer's another good one. Rod Teamer,
No.
you're taking him? Rod's going to plant his flag.
That's going to be my surprise pick. Yeah,
I
that's-
liked it.
I like it too. He's done some nice things. He gives them something on defense, which JT
But I
Gray
think-
doesn't. But like there is like a little bit of a sameness level there.
I'm not saying they take him instead of JT Gray.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
like
yeah,
if they
yeah.
keep JT, they got kind of 2 of the same type of
Right,
player.
right. And I think Rod has to do something. I think Sunday he can like earn his spot though. Like he probably needs to make a couple of plays.
But yeah, there might only be like I don't know, a couple spots up for grab at this
Right.
point.
Yeah.
You know, they pretty much probably got their mind set on a lot
Yeah.
of these things.
Draft pick from this year, Josiah Aziram.
No.
Nope.
no.
Practice
No.
squad guy. He's hurt.
Yeah, I kind of thought I'd see a little bit more out of him in camp. He's looked pretty overwhelmed. Going up, making a pretty big jump in competition level. I still think though that there's traits there that you like. He's a practice squad guy for sure.
Do all the other draft picks make it?
I mean, I don't think Bub Means is certain. I don't think Jalen Ford is certain.
Christian Boyd.
Christian Boyd is definitely he's a lock.
Yeah.
He's a
he might
lock.
receive the most playing time of the rookies.
Yeah.
Other than Fuaga.
Well, other than Fuaga.
Before, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Kool-Aid's gonna make it. Spencer Rattler will make it. Am I missing anybody?
No, because we Ford, Rattler. Yeah.
Aziram. Yeah, won't make it. Yeah.
All right. What about? Can I throw one out?
Yeah.
Dallin Holker.
Yeah.
Yeah, lock, man.
You think
been
he's a lock?
since-
It's been a lot since Rod watched him on Pac-12
YouTube.
After Dark last year.
I would say yeah.
You think he's a lock?
I don't think he's a lock, but I would be more surprised if they cut Dallin Holker than A.T. Perry.
Blake Groupie.
I mean, I've already said my piece.
No.
I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say yeah.
It's the Irish versus the Fighting Irish. And how about how about Lou Headley?
I'm gonna say no. I think he looked. We'll see what happens in this preseason game, but he looked really, really good. He did all the stuff that you wanted him to do in that first preseason game, and in the second one, I mean, it was like worse than anything we saw last year. And they need consistency out of that. So I feel like their punter's not on the roster right now.
I would agree with that, but for 53 purposes, I have Headley making it.
Yeah, I think Headley's ahead of Hayball.
I'm here for the Irish-Australian kicker punter combo.
I got Headley making it.
All right. Okay, so this is all obviously before Sunday's game. We'll have a post-game show Sunday after the Tennessee game and probably have a better idea, especially on some of these specialist competitions, how they look may influence those decisions. But that's our transaction wire. It's brought to you by Associated Grocers. Saints fans, Associated Grocers is hiring. If you're looking to join a team dedicated to supporting independent retail grocers, apply today. Your future starts here. And our future, again, the post-game show on Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. I think it's Fox 8 locally, and we'll be on, 20, 30 minutes after the game. All of you guys will stop by. I'll be on the field there at the Superdome. And then next week, the studio is actually going to be being used, so we'll be probably virtual. We'll do kind of a reaction to the 53-man roster next week, and then we'll be getting into, regular season mode after that. So
cannot wait.
Yeah, it's.
I hit the stage every year where I get really excited for training camp, and then a couple days in, I'm just man, I just need a preseason game to cover. I get really excited to cover the preseason, then the last preseason game hits, I'm man, I'm just ready for the regular season to start. And then the regular season starts, and I'm man, I can't wait till the offseason gets here.
Don't wish your life away, man. The 2-week break between the preseason, and I know why they do it. The players could use that week off, but it's brutal, man. You gotta wait that extra week.
No,
that's what college football is.
There's just a huge sense of dread that kicks in because it's all my season preview stuff is due. Oh, I'm very behind in my reporting, and it's just, trying to be organized. But
yeah, we're not.
I need some of these interview requests.
Means.
I've frantically emailed to respond to me. So if you have an email from me, please respond. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. These guys are going to go to the practice at the Superdome, and we will see you Sunday for the postgame show. He's Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, Norman Bell behind the glass. I'm Zach Ewing, and we'll see you next time.